All right, the board met in closed session. No action was taken. Last board meeting was a major disappointment for me. One of the reasons that we hold our meetings in public is so that we can hear from the public. But one of the reasons that we are able to do so and be productive is, we've got rules around how we do those things. We had a reasonable amount of people last time who chose to ignore those rules, and as a result, we were not able to meet in public to have our meeting and to have the kind of public discourse that we would like to have. We did have an interesting development earlier this week. The volleyball game, the senior game, so a big deal for the volleyball players, for the seniors, was going to be very limited in attendance. There were, I guess, problems earlier in the year with a lot of less than mature behavior, I guess. And as a result, the administration was going to limit the attendance to this event, which would have been very sad. What was actually really nice is there was a meeting Monday morning before the Monday afternoon evening games when players, parents, administrators, coaches, and the athletic director came together and had a discussion about how they wanted to manage this senior night. And the end result was, it was kind of a choice. The choice was you can either follow the rules, wear the masks, and we can have an open door and let everybody in to help celebrate these young ladies, or you can choose to fight it and, in a sense, ruin that experience for many of the, especially the seniors, but their families and their friends and a lot of other people. And at the end of that meeting, the general consensus was that they were going to abide by the rules that the district has in place. And as a result, Monday night was a wonderful event. I think, Mike, you were there. You might share if you choose at the appropriate time. And the crowd was larger than most people have seen around here for a volleyball game in a long time. This was a very positive approach, right? People came together. Many of the people that were there didn't want to wear masks, but they chose to do so in order for these girls to have a good experience. And I think that was a great thing. I was very impressed with the community, very impressed with how people reacted to the situation. So I contrast that with what we saw last week and hope that we're getting to a place where people are starting to realize that it's more important to be heard than it is to make a scene. And so my hope is that we can do that tonight. So I see many people in the audience who are not wearing masks again tonight. I would ask you to do one of two things. If you'd like to stay, maybe speak at public comment, then please put on a mask for the time of the meeting. I'm not asking you to do it when you go home. I'm not asking you to do it when you're in a store. I'm not asking you to do it any other time other than here in this meeting where that's the rule for being a part of the meeting. The other option would be that if you don't want to wear a mask and be in here, you can step outside the chambers and you can watch this on YouTube Live and get a sense of what's going on and listen. And if you choose to come in and speak at a different time, you can put on a mask and come in and do so. If your choice is to sit here without a mask, then you will do what you did last week. You will make it so that your voice is not heard. You will make it so that all these other people that have come to say something that are wearing a mask so that they can be heard are not heard. So my choice is that, my desire, I guess, is that you would be a good member of this community, be a part of this discussion, and not require this kind of action that we had to do last week. Thank you very much. So we have a lot of people that have just done what I think is a great thing. It would be a shame if there were, that what they wanted to have happen, the reason that they're going out and taking care of this, was still ruined by other people that didn't want to wear a mask.
And I assume we're going to request 100% compliance with that, since we still have a couple of people that haven't bothered to put masks on.
Absolutely. We have a lot of people that don't want to wear masks, but want to wear it so that they can be heard, and so that others can be heard. Okay, but we're not going to start the meeting for another 10 minutes or so. We haven't started, so adjourning sounds kind of silly, but we're going to adjourn to the other room in the hopes that those who aren't wearing masks will decide that they don't want to ruin the meeting for everybody else that's here. And we will be back in...
Say we just do 5 minutes. It doesn't take that long for something.
Yeah. We'll give it till 7:22 on that clock back there.
They're not ruining it. You're ruining it. I want to see fit.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
You all will think it.
No, there's always somebody in the crowd.
Well, first of all, I would very much like to thank everybody that stepped outside that did not want to wear a mask. Thank you for doing that. Great. Unfortunately, we can't be thankful to you and then the other people get away with not wearing a mask. So based on that, we will be holding our meeting in the council chambers, and you can watch it on the live stream so you can see everything we have to say tonight in the meeting. There are forms outside that if you do it very quickly, if you have a public comment you'd like to make, you can fill those out. And how do we want to collect them? I guess.
Diane will bring it in, or we have one staff
Can you?
members that offer. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we'll have staff here to collect them from you, and they'll bring them in to us. When we get to the public comment section of the meeting, we will read those on YouTube Live. So, again, thank you for making a wonderful attempt to allow us to do this meeting as it should be done in public. And maybe next month it'll get better. Thank you. If there is any press in the room, the press is welcome to join us in the chambers.
Scott, Mr. O'Neill, you give your letter to Mr. Pierce. You have a copy of your letter? You don't have it? Okay. Do you? Okay. We'll have it ready.
No, thanks, Cody. The comments.
I apparently couldn't talk tonight.
Rocker.
I'll bring you the comments, don't worry.
And just watch the door for us.
Yep, I'm not going anywhere.
Are we on? We're ready to go? Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting with the Sierra St. Vice School District Board of Education. We have moved the location of this meeting due to disruption, and which is very unfortunate, but we've got to be fair to everyone. We will start with the pledge led by Mr. Howe. No, I'm sorry. We had my
You got it.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll have a moment of silence. And we'll move to item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
Yes, Mr. President, several changes. I'd like to pull item 7.1 from the agenda. I'd also like to pull item 3.4 from the special concurrent agenda, please. And then I'd like to add special concurrent items 2.1 through 3.3 to be heard after regular agenda item 8.3. And then I'd like to add special concurrent items 4.1 and 4.2 to be heard after consent agenda item 13.3.
Okay, got it. We'll do so. Move to item 2, approval of minutes of the special meeting of September 28, 2021, and the regular and special meetings of September 16, 2021. Any changes? Those will stand. No programs and presentations, so we'll move to item 4, public hearing. Item 4.1, conduct public hearing and adoption of resolution number 11/21/22 regarding short-term employee to perform specified service between October 15th, 2021 and August 2nd, 2022. Mr. Alt.
Microphone's there.
Vice President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, community, and staff. Education Code Section 45-103 Subdivision D2 authorizes the district to employ short-term classified employees to provide service to the district that, upon the completion of that service or similar service, will not be extended or needed on a continuing basis. Prior to employing a short-term employee, the Board of Education at a regular scheduled meeting must specify the service to be performed by the employee and certify the ending date of that service. The ending date may be shortened or extended by the board, but shall not exceed 75% of the school year, which is 195 working days. The district has a need for one short-term administrative secretary too, confidential, in the Human Resources Department to perform COVID-19 related duties that include but are not limited to contact tracing for school sites and county COVID-19 records. This short-term employee is needed between October 15th, 2021 and August 2nd, 2022. The services or similar services performed by the short-term employee will not be extended or needed on a continuing basis. The financial implications, the amount is not to exceed $30,000 and will be paid from the ESSER 3 grant funding. It is the superintendent's recommendation to conduct a public and adopt resolution number 11/20 regarding short-term employee to perform specified service between October 15, 2021 and August 2nd, 2022.
So, do we have any?
No, we do not. We didn't receive any comments.
Ready?
Unless there's something coming from Mr. Pierce. Should we get his public comment forms now to see if there's any public comment on this public hearing?
Probably, I should at least check.
Then you open the public hearing.
So, good. So we will open the public hearing at 7:28.
One more comment. So if you want to run that in there, last one.
public comment.
Public hearing.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing at 7:29. On the agenda. Go to reports and communications number 5. We'll start with 5.1, student member report.
Oh, you know what, we need to approve it, that was also public hearing and approval.
Oh, apologies. I committed action. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board or anyone else in the room? Then we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Scott. Aye. Dr. Hauck.
Aye.
And an aye for me. So it's unanimous. Now we'll go on the report and communications, starting with the student members report 5.1.
First is Murray Middle School. Murray is excited to have the first quarter of school complete. We had a great start and look forward to the rest of the semester and year. We had our first dance, which was outside on the quad. It was awesome to see the stars at the end of the dance. It was attended by almost half of our student body, which was a great turnout. We look forward to our next dance on October 29th. ASB is still having weekly events, which include class competitions and spirit days. Tomorrow's Spirit Day is Pink Day for breast cancer awareness. Murray activities have been in full force as our music department has debut concerts recorded in class and then shared events. Our concert band and orchestra performed last week in the evening and it was well attended. Murray/Monroe cross country has had a great season, including at least one first place team finish. They head to a very large meet tomorrow at Mountain. Murray volleyball has had a great season and has a few more weeks to go, including the second matchup against Monroe. We are getting ready for basketball signups as we move into the winter. Go Mustangs. Next is Monroe Middle School. The first dance was a success, with the highest attendance on record with more than 300 students. Now ASB is looking to generate some fantastic fellowship with a fall festival in early November. ASB is working in conjunction with PTSO to produce some positivity. Speaking of positivity, the first PBIS reward distribution was last week, and students received rewards for being respectful, responsible, and safe. For the next round, the local chairs donated 50 tickets. Mrs. Edwards is running our local Black Student Union chapter, and students are of all grades, ethnicity, and interests when celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. With help from the staff, the club created a taco bar for the whole school to enjoy during their lunches. Yesterday, students were learning how to salsa, and they were showing their moves today and will again tomorrow at lunch. Our Minecraft and computer gaming clubs continue to grow during both lunch and throughout on Thursday and evening. This month highlighted the talented concert music groups in a series of beautiful performances highlighting choir, orchestra, and band. In the world of sports, the 6th/7th grade volleyball team has shown great resilience through a tough season and continue to bring their best. Both teams have games tonight in Isabella, so let's hope our 8th grade team continues their current undefeated streak. Cross country has also taken first place at every event. Recently, spectators were overheard with awed whispers of who is that team in yellow, as 10 of the top 20 players were from our middle schools. Go Tigers. Yeah. Lastly is Burroughs High School. Burroughs has had a busy last month full of sports, standardized testing, and spirit days. Football, cross country, volleyball, and girls tennis have been busy playing league games. We have successfully conducted our first rallies. We had 3 mini rallies at lunch on September 16th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, where we celebrated the teams, homecoming court, and class competitions. We also had a spirit day at the end of September where students could wear teal or lime green to support teachers who have out of country. On October 2nd, we had SAT testing, which went very well. Homecoming week is happening next week in the famous fairy tale. We have spirit days planned every day, including Country versus Country Club Day, Class Colors Day, Fashion Field Day, and Blackout Day. Powerful practices and float building are in progress. Along with homecoming week is the homecoming day, which will be outside on October 23rd. The Asvab Test was administered on October 6th. Yesterday, juniors and some sophomores took the PSAT. We also have a Red Day Spirit Day planned on Red Ribbon Week and a following Spirit Day on October 29th. And
Great. Item 5.2, reports from members of the board.
I do. Mr. Vice President, Dr. Alsash, I attended the NACAS conference on September 19th through the 21st in Washington, D.C. The event was well attended considering our COVID situation. A couple of the important takeaways from the conference were NACAS requested a $102 million increase for the fiscal year 2022. The House has passed their FY22 Labor, Health and Human Services Education Appropriation Bill. It included a $51 million increase to impact aid. The Senate has not released any legislation as of that conference. Also on September 15th, H.R. 5255, the Advancing Toward Impact Full Funding Act, was introduced in the House. This legislation authorizes funding increases for impact aid over 5 years. This bill would fully fund basic support, provide an increase to federal property, and increase the Children with Disabilities payment to approximately $2,000 per student. Cost of the $1.1 billion would be split over this 5-year period. NAFIS is hoping to introduce companion legislation in the Senate and is obviously interested in gaining co-sponsors in the Senate. Dr. Rostash and I walked the Hill and met with Kevin McCarthy's staff. We urged them to support the $51 million increase in the final package, as well as support the Advancing Toward Full Impact Funding Act, the Advancing Toward Impact Full Funding Act. I'm sure Dr. Rostash will go into further details during our meeting, and we will continue to monitor HR 5255. If you don't know my notes, you just have to.
Mr. Scott? Ferris?
Yes, I would like to make a couple of comments. First of all, I would like to recognize the many challenges that our staff, our administration, and our teachers are facing in these difficult times. We know it's additional work and stress on everyone, but at the same time, I think we need to absolutely acknowledge the amazing instruction that's going on in our classrooms and the many opportunities that are being offered to our students in this time and in our extended effort to try and keep our campuses open and to keep our children and our staff safe, and thank them for their work. Thank you for that time.
Mr. Ferris? That will take us to 5.3, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Rostash.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. As always, the enrollment report starts us off. We're at, for month one, we're at 5,042 student enrollment. Last year, this time was 4,949, so we're up almost 100 students over last time this year. We continue to have just over 100 students enrolled in our long-term independent study program, which is great that we have that flexibility and we see the increase, somewhat increased students taking advantage of that program. We also have coordinated 343 short-term study contracts in the last 10 weeks, which is a huge number, especially since we average about 300 short-term study contracts in the entire year. But 2/3 of those 303 short-term study contracts are related to COVID tracing and quarantining of students. And so even though it takes an enormous amount of effort for all of the faculty and the staff over at Mesquite High School, where the department helps coordinate that, we really appreciate those efforts because it allows students to continue to get their academic learning and support while we're following the Kern County Department of Public Health's guidance. Speaking of COVID, I do have some updates. I'd like to give a bit of a snapshot each month. Last month, I reported that we had 6 staff members that had tested positive for COVID. And since that time, we've had 4 additional. So that leads us with 10 total staff members having tested positive since the beginning of the school year. And then the students who have been on or are on quarantine study contracts, I reported that we had 153 contact traces in the previous month, 86 more since then, so it brings us to that total of 343, which I reported just a minute ago about the short-term study contracts. And then students positive at site for contact tracing, 11 in our previous report last month and 10 more since then, so a total of 21 students have tested positive for COVID this year. 21 students and 10 staff total. Speaking of Country Scott's report on NAFIS and really our overall impact aid collection, which is happening now, we did have a great visit. In addition, on October 7, a couple of United States senators, not in California, introduced some legislation at the federal level that would allow school districts like ours to participate in the impact aid program by using previously reported student head counts on the impact aid applications. And so it's basically that idea of having some flexibility, knowing that it's a little bit difficult to connect with families. And so we're assuming that it won't pass, even though I think there's probably a lot of support for it, in the sense that we don't want to be left empty-handed. So we are in the process of collecting impact aid forms. I know I submitted mine already for my daughter. And so I'd like to encourage our families to remit those forms, which are done electronically now, so they're very convenient. Because, as mentioned, the money that districts receive from impact aid is extremely important. School districts like ours that are located on federal property or where students live on federal land, and therefore, of course, our district collects less in property taxes to fund our schools. And so that money that comes through the federal government helps to backfill those funds. And again, speaking of NAFIS, we all very fondly remember our late board member, Amy Castillo-Covert, who was a true champion, a true advocate of the impact aid cause and really had developed what I would call her NAFIS family. I just spoke today with her son, Jordan, and the family extends an invitation to anyone in our community to join for a celebration of her life on Saturday, October 30 at the Kerr McGee Center at 10:30 a.m. And we'll also be sending an email out to all staff tomorrow extending this information and invitation. Household income data form, sort of like the impact aid collection, but for state revenue purposes. We are conducting our annual collection of the household income data form in order to get an accurate count for providing extra resources for students who can benefit. California school districts are funded on a 3-tier funding revenue model. There's a basic grant revenue, a supplemental grant revenue, and a concentration grant revenue source. So all students generate a baseline of funding, which is provided in the basic grant. But students who qualify for free or reduced lunch on the federal program, or who are English learners, or who are foster youth, qualify districts to receive additional revenues through the supplemental and concentration grant revenue sources. And those are critical in allowing us to hire additional support or to support targeted programs that help students who the research shows needs the extra support. I want to give the community and those of us in the room here some examples of services that we currently fund with supplemental and concentration grant revenue sources. The majority of the funding that goes for conducting or running our buses, our transportation department, is funded through our supplemental grant revenue throughout our valley. Our professional development and much of our professional development training for our teachers is funded. Elementary counselors at all 6 of our elementary schools are funded through our LCAP process, and that's supplemental and concentration funds. The AVID program in our middle schools and our high school. We support a dedicated teacher at each of our secondary schools at Monroe and Murray and Burroughs to support students with disciplinary challenges or emotional challenges, and many, many other services in our district. So we really appreciate when everybody will remit that form. We can get an accurate count of what our student need is, and then it qualifies our district to receive those significant extra revenue sources to help support those students in those programs in our district. A couple other items. This is the week of the school administrator. Yesterday, I visited all school sites and departments. We have 30 administrators in our team. A plate of cookies and a big thank you were in order, and pictures were posted on our district Facebook page. And we were really grateful for lots of positive remarks and comments from community members and parents. There's so much that we see our administrators do day in and day out, but there's also a lot that they do behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see. And I'm just grateful that our community is also thankful for that, and we're very fortunate to see the absolute dedication that these administrators show in our school district. And lastly, I mentioned last month that Ms. Smith and I are touring around to all of our school sites and all of our departments. We've completed that journey where we've shared out our strategic planning goals for school facilities and asking for feedback. We have really appreciated the comments and suggestions. And our facilities master plan does, I want to say, identify a critical need for managing the aging Monroe Middle School campus, the plant. And we are confident that with our plan and integrating input over the last couple of years from community, staff, that we have found the most cost-effective means of solving that problem. So now we go through the rigorous process of finding the sources of funding to implement that solution over the next few years. And lastly, I continue visiting school sites this month and touring through all the classrooms, which really is the greatest honor and privilege that I have in this position, to be honest. Today I had the privilege of touring Fowler Elementary School. And then when I visit classrooms at Monroe Middle School next week, I will have been in every classroom in our district this fall. I just can't say enough great things about our faculty, our supportive staff. What is happening in our classrooms is amazing. And it's most amazing when it takes place in the classroom, that's for sure. So I really appreciate our teachers. I appreciate our staff, and they're just absolute rock stars. So thank you for what you do for our students. Thank you, Mr. Rockwell.
Thank you. Move to 5.4, report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association. Step on up to the podium.
I have this all wrong, but Vice President Rockwell, board members, Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. I'm Sherry K. Brownie, Data Vice President. I'm speaking on behalf of our Data President, Eileen Poole. Board members and Dr. Ostash, thank you for making our safety a priority. Please consider backing off on the relentless CFAs while we are understaffed and overworked. Those of us who interact with students every day know what students can do and what they need more time to master, but we are consistently ignored. It doesn't feel good and it doesn't make sense. Listen to the professionals you've hired and who have been here working tirelessly for years. We have data, ask for it. And at the start of the year, we were told student emotional health was a priority. Let's make sure it really is. All of us here in this room and out there want our kids to thrive and have a full and successful school year. Thank you.
Yep, report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association.
I'll read the statement on behalf of the Chapter 188 President, Sylvia Clayanis. She says, hello, School Board President, board members, Superintendent, Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. CSEA's negotiation team is eager to continue on our successor contract. We hope to be able to put some work into our pay scale as it has begun to collapse due to the increase of minimum wage over the last 3 to 4 years. The fact that ranges 10 through 19 all make the same amount is not fair to our employees who have worked for the district for some time and only make a couple dollars more than new hires. Our longevity is going out the window and our members are feeling discouraged. Our classified members are feeling overworked with our short staff predicament and way underpaid for their workload. With the rising cost of healthcare premiums, it's an added burden onto our members who are already not getting the pay they deserve. The membership voted on the recruitment and retention MOU and it was not ratified, and the membership feels that the retention portion would be better off used to help align our pay scale with other comparable district salary scale. We are excited to continue to work with the district on new possible options for healthcare plans and working on a solution for better pay.
Mr. All. Item 5.6 is communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on an item not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name and address at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond the 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. Obviously, things are a little different this time. Hopefully, you do this twice and no more. But
Who wants to read them? But
yeah, so
there are only 5.
first, Mr. Coy, would you mind checking outside to see if we got any more? Because we want to make sure we get an opportunity to get everybody's input in.
The CP general freedoms, these do specifically talk about vaccine, but I
Okay, so those, yeah.
So we can hold those off till. Perfect.
From Scott O'Neill. I find it interesting the responses we are having to vaccine and mask. Often I hear arguments against these that are couched in terms of personal freedom of choice, that the authorities have no right to curb our freedom. So let's talk about freedom. Freedom is not what one can or cannot do, but rather about what one ought to do. We can kill someone, but that doesn't mean it should be allowed. We can drive on the opposite side of the road, but allowing that would not benefit society. This is in part because our rights end at the point they would impinge upon someone else's. Even our Constitution is drafted along this line of thought. The document begins with the word, in quotes, we. It's a set of rules to, in quotes, to promote the general welfare, in quotes, among other common ideals. It is written towards the betterment of society by guaranteeing individual freedom. It delineates individual rights that are properly directed to the good of society. But there are no free lunches. It also demands we accept responsibility when we exercise these freedoms. In this way, we are accountable to exercise our rights without trampling on those of our neighbors. The history of mankind universally portrays us as communal beings. As such, we are called to serve the community. All our individual actions should reinforce this ideal. Freedom demands rules towards this end. These rules should not guide our behavior to make clear what is needed to preserve community. It seems some think freedom means no rules. In quotes, don't tell me how to act. Well, in fact, without rules, there is no freedom. Without rules, there is only chaos. Take, for instance, the game of chess. It is one of the freest games, so free that it takes supercomputers to develop winning strategies. The board itself sets the boundaries, but without rules that govern each piece, there is no game. If each piece moves however it chooses, then there is only chaos. There are many other clear examples of how our individual behaviors must be guided by rules for the good of society. So it is not what we can do, but what we ought to do that gives us freedom. In our society, these two forces are balanced. What we ought to do is defined by our rules for the benefit of society. The adage, think locally but act globally, the golden rule, our Constitution are all manifestations of this notion of freedom. Yes, I wear a mask and I am vaccinated, not just for COVID, but for diseases that can generally harm society. Yes, my actions are selfish because they protect me, but they also, for the benefit of our community, it protects my wife, my family, and you. I do this to respect your freedom and mine. I do it as a small attempt at humility, my attempt to put your safety before mine. It is my way to act individually in a manner that benefits you and me. In short, it is what I ought to do. Looks like this is from Bill Martin. It is just a note of gratitude for the district and its adoption of COVID protocols to keep our kids and district sites safe. The silent majority who have children in local schools, along with those of us who have family employed by the district, are grateful that the district is attempting to follow the guidelines set forth by the California Department of Health. We're relieved that campuses are open, and we believe your acceptance and enforcement of masking policies to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and its variants has helped to make that possible. We sincerely appreciate that your attempt to keep local schools safe, healthy, and open. You'll be following the vaccine and testing requirements for staff. We're thankful that you have listened to the experts in the fields of science and medicine rather than bowing to the bluster of the perpetually aggrieved or legitimized pseudoscience arguments gleaned from the hallowed halls of YouTube and Facebook universities. The last comment is from Brandon Let's Go. If you are so pro-mask, why did you not wear them when in DC or in public in our community? That ends the three that were written. The other two were for the specific items.
We will close the public comment at 7:55. Yes, ma'am.
Can Hannah go?
Hannah is more than welcome to leave. I can't understand why anybody would want to leave this place, but it's great. Thank you for coming and working through this with us.
Bye.
All right, we're on to item 6, education administration. 6.1, appointment of industry business members to career technical stakeholder consultation advisory committee. Ms. Decker.
Yep. Okay. Good evening, Vice President Blackwell, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. California Education Code 8070 requires that the governing board of each school district participating in a career technical education program for Carl Perkins shall appoint a career technical education stakeholder consultation advisory committee to develop recommendations on the program and provide a liaison between the district and potential employers. There have been significant changes and additions to the consultation process in Perkins 5 that expand the scope of stakeholders who must be consulted in developing a local application. There is an increased focus on including local employers and business leaders to the skills needed in local markets and those possessed by students who complete CTE programs. During the comprehensive needs assessment process, the school must consult with a diverse body of stakeholders, which at a minimum includes representatives of CTE education programs, secondary teachers and administrators, counselors, state, regional, or local workforce development boards, local or regional business leaders, parents and students, and representatives of special populations. Activities of the Career Technical Stakeholder Consultation Advisory Committee may include, but are not limited to, providing input on annual updates to the comprehensive needs assessment, ensuring programs of study are responsive to community employment needs, aligned with employment priorities in the state, region, or local economy, informed by labor market information designed to meet current, intermediate, or long-term labor market projections. Allow employer input into development and implementations of programs of study to ensure alignment with the skills required by local employers, including activities such as identification of relevant standards, curriculum, industry-recognized credentials, and current technology and equipment. Identify and encourage opportunities for work-based learning, and ensuring that funding is used in a coordinated manner with other local resources. The following business and community representatives have volunteered for and are recommended for appointment to the Sierra Sands Unified School District Career Technical Stakeholder Consultation Advisory Committee. Carl Etley, Boeing Field Rep for Boeing Company China Lake. Nicole Griffin, our new Dean of Career Technical Education from Saracoso Community College. Terry Hack, an ADT counselor at Saracoso Community College. April Hallback, School Liaison Officer, NAS China Lake. Nicole Hennebury, STEM Student Outreach at NAS NOC-WD. Ray Hawker, Video and Photography Group, NOC-WD. Scott O'Neill, Executive Director of the IWD Economic Development Corporation, Mike Peterson, Engineer for NOCWD, Ron Pruitt, Supervisor at NOCWD, David Santiago, Employer Training Resources, America's Job Center, Diana Sleva, STEM and Student Support at NOCWD, Tony Small, Supervisory Program Manager at NOCWD, Diana Taylor, Environmental Health and Safety Specialist for Boeing Company, China Lake, Alan Van Neville, Research Physicist at NOCWD, and Angel Zamaron, our STEM Outreach and Student Employment Rep at NOCWD. In addition, the committee consists of Sierra Sands Unified School District teaching staff, students, parents, counselors, and administrators. Incidental costs for this Stakeholder Consultation Advisory Committee are considered a reasonable expense through the Carl Perkins 5 funds and are estimated to be about $200 or less. The Carl Perkins 5 allocation this year is $59,374. It is recommended that the board appoint the individuals named above to the Sierra Sands Unified School District Career Technical Stakeholder Consultation Advisory Committee for the 21-22 school year.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from anybody in the room? I have one. So we've got about $60,000 in the Perkins Fund. We're going to use 200 of it for this. What roughly? I mean, what other things do we use the Perkins funds for?
Oh, for Perkins, they each pathway gets a determined amount depending on what their needs are for instructional supplies. A lot of it goes for professional development because they're required to keep up with current standards and things like that. Trying to think of what else we do. But basically, they're pathway specific, or if we need to get together and do rewriting of coursework, which we did last year, that would pay for the time for the teachers to do that. So
I just want to make sure that that wasn't only for this, and we've had
nope,
300
it's
years
for the whole the whole program.
All right. Let's see. Motion and a second. Roll call vote. We'll start with Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson. Aye. Mr. Scott. Aye. Dr. Huck. Aye for me. It's unanimous. We will move to item 6.2. Ratification of amended contract with Presence Learning. Billy.
President Ferris, Vice President Rockwell, members of the board, Dr. Ostash.
Mr. Dell, can you search the corner because they're looking at the back of it.
I would remark it as a lovely back of your head, though.
Thank you. Good everyone, community staff and community members, thanks. Background information: according to state and federal laws and regulations, school districts are required to assess students who have been referred for special education services in an area related to suspected disability. Assessments must be administered by trained and knowledgeable personnel. A student must be assessed when first referred for suspected disability, then considered for reassessment at least once every 3 years after qualifying for special education. After the parent or guardian signs a consent for assessment plan, the district has 60 days in which to complete the assessment and hold an IEP meeting to discuss the student's eligibility. If the student qualifies for special education services, the district must provide those services according to the student's individual educational program. Critical shortages of special education teachers and related service providers, including speech and language pathologists, exist in all regions of the country. The shortage of speech pathologists will continue to grow, not only because there are not enough graduates, but also because the number of children diagnosed with communicative disorders will continue to increase. Current consideration: since July 2021, Sierra Sands has one speech therapist resigned from the district to accommodate the speech needs of our students. The district has been contracting with Presence Learning to provide teletherapy services at several district schools. The district has vacant positions for speech and language pathologists posted on EdJoin for the following sites: Pierce Elementary, preschool through 5th, Richmond, TK through 5th. The current Present learning contract has been amended effective December 27, 2021 to include these additional speech services for students. The district will be contracting for services of one full-time SLP, or speech and language pathologist, with Presence Learning. Presence Learning provides speech therapist services using screen computers. The therapy is provided by licensed speech therapists qualified in the state of California. The estimated cost of therapy services are one full-time is $86,130 at Pearson Richmond. The above cost will be paid through the special education budget. It is a recommendation of the board to ratify the amended contract for Presence Learning for the 21-22 school year.
We recommend action.
So, have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from anybody in the room? All right, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Aye. Dr. Howe? Mr. Dr. Howe?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. So it's unanimous. We'll move to item 6.3, approval for Selpa to enter into a contract with Autism Partnership. Mr. Delby.
Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, are groups of developmental disabilities that can cause significant social, communication, and behavioral challenges. People with ASD handle information in their brain differently than other people, as it affects each person in different ways. Symptoms can range from very mild to severe. They share some similarities, symptoms as well, such as problems with social interactions. There are no differences in when the symptoms start, how severe they are, and the exact nature of the symptoms. There are differences. Children with ASD develop at different rates in different areas. They may have delays in language, social, and learning skills, while their ability to walk and move around are about the same as other children. Some might be very good at putting puzzles together or solving computer problems, but others may have trouble with social activities like talking or making friends. Children with an ASD might also learn a hard skill before they learn an easy one. For example, a child might be able to read long words, but not be able to tell you what the sound B makes. Children with ASD might have unusual responses to touch, smell, sound, sight, taste, and feel. For example, they may over or underreact to pain or loud noise. They might have abnormal eating habits or odd sleeping habits. They also might have abnormal moods or emotional reactions. The nature of the disability makes teaching the students on the spectrum a challenge for educators. There's no one curriculum that works for all autistic students because the range of abilities and symptoms are vast. According to reports by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the National Research Council, behavior and communication approaches that help students with ASD are those that provide structure, direction, and organization. Currently, there are 176 students in the district identified as being on the autism spectrum. In order for the district to effectively meet the needs of those students, it is important that district staff that works with these students have the knowledge of disability and the research-based methodology that is the basis for effective programs for students on the autism spectrum. Students returning to the classroom after lengthy absence due to COVID pandemic experience a pause in behavior as well in academic skills. Teachers in the classroom are dealing with having to teach basic classroom behavior skills. This is especially evident in the classes for students on the autism disorder spectrum. Applied behavior analysis, or ABA, is a treatment approach for students with ASD that is widely accepted among healthcare professionals and used in many schools and treatment clinics. ABA encourages positive behavior in order to improve a variety of skills. The child's progress is tracked and measured. ABA methods are used to teach new skills, increase positive behaviors, continue positive behaviors, and to cut down behaviors that are interfering with learning. Current consideration. Autism Partnership is a company based in Seal Beach, California that was formed in 1994 to meet the tremendous need for the effective services to families with autistic children. Autism Partnership directors were involved in the treatment program developed at UCLA Young Autism Program during the period of 1975 to 1987. Based on their knowledge gained from the University Research Clinic and their experience in providing behavior treatment to children, adolescents, and adults, Autism Partnership has developed comprehensive programs based on applied behavior analysis, or ABA. On October 1st, 2021, Serious Science Professional Development was provided by a consultation consultant from Autism Partnership to the special day class teachers who teach on the students on the autism spectrum and district paraprofessionals. This training including an overview of autism and review of applied research principles of behavior analysis and management, a description and explanation of the treatment programs, and curriculum and demonstration of these methods. Selpa is proposing to contract with Autism Partnership for ongoing consultation service. This is essential to allow participants from the intensive training to practice applications of ABA, management techniques, and continued professional development, as well as developing in-house expertise. Ongoing support, supervision, and on-site training is critical to providing effective ABA programs in the district in the classroom setting. Beginning November 21st, Autism Partnership will consult for 56 days from November 2021 to May 2022. Selpa is seeking authorization from the board to contract with Autism Partnership of Seal Beach, California for ongoing consultation services for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year beginning in November 21. Financial implications. The cost of the ongoing consultation is $196,000 plus expenses. Autism Partnership has given Sierra Sands a discount of $28,000, making the total for the training $168,000 plus expenses not to exceed $25,000. The total payable to the contractor on this agreement shall not exceed $193,000. Funding for these services will come from special education budget and learning recovery grant. It is recommended the board authorize Selpa to enter into a contract with Autism Partnership for the services described above.
Move recommended action.
Second. A motion and a second. Any questions from anyone on the board?
I have some questions, but I have a comment about it. I think I want to say it's a lengthy board header, but it's all really good information to share, not just with us, but also to anybody that's watching. As I see your glasses have fogged up from all reading. Autism is one of those things that has been with us for, it feels like now, a really long time, and yet not everybody necessarily understands the way it manifests itself and how it can affect the students and the teachers and the paraprofessionals who are working in there. To that end, and their families all around. But what I really like about this one is that all too often with professional development, it's a one and done kind of a deal. And this seems like it may have started that way, but we found we really like them. And I personally have read many studies that show when you do it one and done, it's never as effective as when we have repeat follow-up to reinforce and be able to support. Because the first time anybody gets taught something, it takes repetition and practice. So I'm glad that we're doing that. And frankly, I'd like to see more of our professional development, if we were able to, from the get-go, plan for ongoing follow-up when we do professional development so that we don't spend a lot of money and then not get much out of it. Fortunately for this one, we've got those kind of funds to be able to do that this time. And I'm thankful that we are going to go ahead and continue to support the learning that happened. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Just to comment on that, yeah, they model and they go in the classroom. That's what we need, because it's really easy to hear it for a day, but someone's with you, working with you, showing you, modeling. That's where so thank you for acknowledging that.
Questions or comments from anybody else in the room? We'll go to a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Scott. Dr. Huff.
Aye.
Aye for me. So it's unanimous. Let's see, we'll move to 8, personnel administration.
Move 8, 1, and 2, and 3.
We're going to do something.
No,
we didn't have
I can't say that for
move.
Okay.
Second.
So we've got a motion for 8, 1, 8, 2, 8, 3. Questions or comments from anybody?
Action for item 2.1 is the approval of 7.
No, we moved that to after 8.3.
Hearing no questions, comments, roll call vote. Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Dr. Huff.
Aye.
Aye for me. 8, 1, 3, 3, unanimous. We will go to the concurrent agenda and start with item 2.1. Approval of board policy 0470, COVID-19 mitigation plan.
Excuse me, can I ask to move to the personnel administration? Because
I
was
did.
talking about something. And
Mr.
second,
Mr. Hawk.
thank you very much.
All
right.
Mr. Hall.
August 11, 2021, State Public Health Officer and Director Thomas J. Argon issued a health order that applies to, among other entities, public and private schools serving students in transitional kindergarten through grade 12. This health order requires all public school districts to verify the vaccination status of all their workers. In addition, workers who are not vaccinated or who choose not to divulge their vaccination status will be required to test for COVID-19 at least once weekly with either PCR testing or antigen testing. The order of August 11, 2021 is to be fully implemented by October 15, 2021. Board Policy 0470 COVID-19 Mitigation Plan will provide the district with specific guidance regarding the process used to collect vaccination records. Regarding the collection of vaccination records, the district's Human Resource Department will make confidential inquiries to employees for purposes of personnel management. If an employee indicates they are fully vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus, the district will request a copy of the employee's vaccination record. If an employee indicates they have not been vaccinated, the district will maintain a record of this information and they will not ask any additional questions by the district, including why they have not received a COVID-19 vaccine. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a line there. No, I didn't. Okay, I did. Based on the order, and although not specifically mentioned in BP 0470, testing will be provided at no charge to all employees who are not fully vaccinated and those who refuse to disclose their vaccination status during their regular work hours and at their work site. The August 11, 2021 health order will remain active until which time the order is withdrawn or a new order is adopted. Based on the governor's October 1st, 2021 public address, it appears the testing requirement will be eliminated and all non-exempt staff must be vaccinated on either January 1st or July 1st, 2022, whichever comes first following the FDA's approval of the vaccines for individuals who are 12 to 17 years old. The financial implications are unknown at this time. However, all costs incurred will be paid for through the ESSER 3 grant funding. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board adopt policy 0470 COVID-19 mitigation plan as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board first?
Just like a comment, obviously we're not forcing people to take the vaccine because they have the choice of either testing on a weekly basis. So, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's, if you want to take the vaccine, you're welcome to. If you don't, take the test every week and you're good to go.
Any other initial comments from anyone? You have some public comments, I believe.
Yeah, I do. First one is from Kiana Williams. No vaccine mandates. Second one is from Troy Taylor. We are here to debate vaccines, not masks. If the masks work, why are we mandating our children to be mandatory vaccinated? Next one is from Ben Spurbeck. Every person on the board knows that mandatory masks and vaccinations are unconstitutional, against the law, and outright wrong. But all the board members are aligned with the mandates because they don't care about what is right. They care about the money, their positions, and not the people. I want to vote them all out.
Thank you for that. Any further comments or questions from anybody in the room?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up what Mr. Scott said. We're not making everybody do the vaccines. We are giving choice. Everybody has a choice to get vaccinated or do the testing to ensure the safety of those around them and themselves. This particular policy is I read it as our pledge to make sure that information will stay confidential when people do tell us one way or the other, and they will not be discriminated against one way or the other by the districts depending upon their choice. So I appreciate that we're able to put this policy in place.
All right. Seeing no other inputs. We will call for a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Dr. Howard?
Aye.
Aye for me. It's unanimous. Current 3.1, approval of memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association titled Supplemental Paid Sick Leave Extension.
Excuse me if my inexperience, if I'm doing this out of line, but the next three are just simply the exact same background information, current considerations, simply just with the separate bargaining units.
So maybe when you go through the first one, we might get a motion for all three, or if you want to hear them all individually, we can do that too. But
that'd be
start with the first one and see where we go.
Senate Bill 95 allocated supplemental paid sick leave, SPSL. The SPSL authorized through SB 95 expired on September 30, 2021. As district employees continue to be directly exposed to and or test positive with COVID-19, the parties agreed to extend the SPSL until December 31, 2021. This MOU does not create new leave, rather it only extends the time period during which unit members may access their SPSL leave. Therefore, members who have used all of their SPSL are not entitled to additional SPSL leave. Members who have accessed part of their SPSL leave will be able to access the remaining FCSL until December 31, 2021. Finally, members who have not accessed any SPSL leave are entitled to the full amount that was available at the end of, or until the end of September 30, 2021. It will continue through December 31, 2021. Financial implications are unknown since it will depend on two factors. One, how many employees will need to use the SPSL leave, and two, whether they will require a substitute. Regardless, the financial implications will be minimal and will be paid for through the ESSER 3 funding. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association titled Supplemental Paid Sick Leave as presented.
Move 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Scott? Dr. Hunt?
Aye.
Aye for me, unanimous. We will move to 3.3, approval of memorandum of understanding.
We already did that one.
We did all three.
Yeah, we did 3, 1, 2, 3.
No, this is different.
We pulled that.
That's right. We pulled one. All right, thank you.
We don't have a flow chart in here with all the changes.
Let's see. So that takes us to 9, general administration. Item 1, gifts to the district. Mr. Scott?
So I got my computer loaded.
Whoever's got it up.
Yeah. It's just, it's fighting tonight.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's not with Dan, but no, it's not going.
Dr. Haupt.
Let's do this.
Following gifts were received. Franzi Thornton donated a prelude trombone with an estimated cash value of $600 to the Murray Middle School band. United Methodist Church of Ridgecrest donated miscellaneous school supplies with an estimated cash value of $250 to be used by schools within the district. Pat Sorensen donated several musical instruments with an estimated cash value of $475 to the Murray Middle School music program. And Heather Starnes donated a Sharp television with an estimated cash value of $200 to Fowler Elementary School. Donations provide to the district and have a positive financial impact. We recommend we accept the gifts as described and send appropriate letters of appreciation.
We recommend that. A second.
Great. Motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Dr. Hutt?
Aye.
Aye. Here, unanimous. 9.2, report to the board, nature and resolution of complaints with regard to deficiencies related to instructional materials, emergency or urgent facilities conditions that pose a threat to the health and safety of pupils or staff, teacher vacancy or misassignment as required by the Williams Act. My understanding is this is a informational only, and do we have any reports?
No.
Oh, good. I will nod and move along. Thank you. And construction administration, 10.1, report to the board, construction activities and issues. Mr. Court. Thank you for collecting our public comments tonight.
Vice President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Osash, staff, and community. I'm pleased to give this update on the status of the district's construction activities. This report is presented for informational purposes only, and no action is required. Earthquake repairs. All structural repairs required by DSA and our structural engineers following the July 2019 earthquakes are complete. The projects are in closeout process. We received the DSA certification of compliance for the BHS PAC earlier this week. For our electric bus yard project, SCE preliminary engineering design for the charging stations is scheduled to be complete by October 25th. Once we receive the preliminary plans from SCE, we'll work with our design and construction management team to complete the design and develop the project scope and bid packages. Our SR3 HVAC replacement and PAC air handler repair project. We've received a proposal from West Coast Air Conditioning Company to replace 109 HVAC package units, upgrade building automation systems at 4 elementary schools, and repair and upgrade the BHS PAC air handlers. This proposal will be included in an item for your review and possible approval at the November board meeting. New Richmond Elementary School, we are communicating with the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation and expect to receive project approval before the end of this month.
Any questions on that? Questions from anybody? All good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Quick. Item 10.2, report to the board, private LTE project update. Mr. Morrison.
So I'm going to try to pull up and share my screen because we've got some really neat pictures we want to show you guys tonight. Let's see if I can pull this off real quick. Good evening, President Ferris, Vice President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff and community. So it's been a while since I've given you guys an update. My apologies for that, but we've gotten a lot of work done since the last time I was here presenting to you. As a matter of fact, we've got about 90% of the construction is now complete. As you can see, the 4 pictures there are all 4 of our towers with the equipment at the top of them. The other 10% is we still have some cabling to do and some grounding work to finish up on there, and then we will begin our testing and validation phase. Try to do full screen mode. There you go. Okay. There we go. So there's some pictures of the foundation being poured and the tower being constructed at Fowler Elementary. So you can see that top picture there with the pile of dirt. We dug the hole and we put in all the rebar and all the bolts and things that will hold the tower. That other picture is kind of covered, but that's them pouring it. And of course, you can see the foundation's been poured. Below that, they're putting the base of the tower and bolting that to the foundation. And the bigger picture there is them putting on the top piece of the tower. So I just thought that was kind of a cool picture. And then if we come back over here on the left, you can see that's the fully constructed tower with the equipment at the top of it. I'll also say, too, this was the one part so far in this project where we actually were able to expedite our schedule. The concrete cured a lot sooner than we thought it would. And so it was nice to actually have a chance to move a schedule forward on this project.
And this is the only new tower. The other
That's
three
correct.
were existing.
Yep, the three existing.
Out of curiosity, how deep? Foundation, do you know?
You know, I don't know how deep it went. I know there was a number of different things talking about. I'd have to look that up.
It's okay. It's more.
Not all in dirt there, so that's a pretty deep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's probably more than
Probably 18 feet is my guess.
I was thinking. It's probably.
I was thinking a little bit, but I can check on
They
it.
drilled that down.
And so here's the pictures. We just got some close-ups of the radios that are up on the tower. The district office there, it's kind of hard to see because we have so many other dishes and antennas on there. But that's on there. Lost Flores was an existing tower, so you can see we have our existing backhaul radio at the top, that dish on the top, and then the LTE equipment just below it. Fowler Elementary, because that's a brand new tower, that's all we have on there is the LTE equipment, and there's a little lightning rod sticking off the top there to hopefully avoid any lightning strikes. And then the Inyukern Tower, you can see the equipment there. One thing I want to point out with that Inyukern Tower in that picture really kind of points out, as you can see, it kind of looks weird because there's a little leg sitting there with nothing on it. So basically what there is on every tower is that there's 3 legs, and on each leg there's 2 areas that we can install radios on them. So our current design called for basically 1 radio per leg. But if we look, we wanted to make sure future-proofing the district and building a solution that's scalable. And so we are scalable at any time. If we needed to, we could completely double our capacity with very little effort other than just putting up some more antennas. We wouldn't have to go through putting more mounts and going through all that stuff. So we're in a good place if we need to upgrade from there.
On those pictures, just due to the recent high winds we have, does you've got some pictures that look like they have a bigger dish and stuff. Are those all rated to 150 or what's the rating on those?
Yeah, we go through with all of those. We've been doing it on our existing towers, and of course we'll do it now here. Once a year we go through and we have them certified. They do their wind calcs and all their load calculations and all those things to make sure that those are safe. I want to say they're based on like 100-mile-an-hour range. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure on that. We do that once a year to make sure everything, bolts over time. Sometimes they get loose and things happen. So we have a company, Sun Wireless, as a matter of fact, that comes out. They check all our bolts and then they make sure everything's secure. So we talked earlier about coming to the end of the construction phase of the project. So we'll be entering into the testing and validation phase of the project here in the next few weeks, which will help ensure that we're having optimal strength and coverage. This is really an important part of the project because we want to make sure that we've got the coverage and that we've got the bandwidth and the throughput and all the things that we paid for essentially. And so this is the part of the project will be testing those things. And if something doesn't quite meet the specs that we expect, we'll go back and, not to the drawing board, we'll go back and make sure that we actually get what we need to make sure we have the coverage and the signal strength and all that stuff. So there's just a picture there on the left of some of the equipment that's in the server room. It'll be a similar setup to that in every single one of the school sites. And then this picture here, again, this little thing over here is kind of, but just kind of a cool picture of close-up of some of the equipment at the top of the tower. You can see some of the background there. So I thought that was.
Did you make that?
Yeah, he climbed up there. I saw him.
It wasn't me. I'll tell you. Speaking of cool pictures, this is just a really unique perspective of some of the installed equipment at the top of the towers and the surrounding Inyukern area from 120 feet up. So you can kind of see that's some of the Inyukern area there, and just some really neat pictures that our vendor took of us. Just wanted to have that on there for you. And then the other thing I was going to say is just a little bit of a shout out to Mr. David McGowan. I'm the one fortunate enough to get up and present to you guys and give you updates and show you cool pictures. But Dave McGowan's been doing a lot of work on this project and helping making sure that things are moving forward, staying on top of vector, and make sure we get what we want. And he's also going to be very instrumental in the testing and validation phase as we go through and make sure that the network's ready to go and all that stuff. So just wanted to say thank you to Mr. McGowan. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Anybody?
So when's our go live date?
Well, we're going to be doing the testing and validating. We expect that to take a couple of months. Somewhere in that range, you know, it's possible we can launch during that time. There's kind of some pilots and things like that. So I don't really, you know, I'll say I came up in front of the board many times and gave dates, and unfortunately we didn't meet a lot of those because of, you know, unforeseen problems. So I'm hesitant to do that, but we'll be able to launch once we get the testing and validation phase done, and for sure, you know, we're poised for sure to start the 22-23 school year with this fully up and running, completely tested and vetted and all that stuff.
Thank you.
What does, I know that this is going to be a hard question to answer, but what does launch mean? Are you looking at providing wireless network internet access to people who don't have internet at home, or are there instances where you think it will go wider than that?
Can I jump in, Don, if you don't mind? So that's a great question, because Mr. Morrison and I were just talking at length about strategy and about what our aspirational goals are and how this could actually meet some future needs that we haven't been run up against yet. But there are so many things that we can do with this. So I think what we need to do as a staff is we need to develop what our operational plan will be and present it to the board to make sure that we're in line with what the board's vision is. But I think it's a tiered approach. I think we believe we need to look at those who absolutely lack reliable connectivity, and that's where we can probably get our lowest hanging fruit. Is I think, and how we go through and identify those students who have challenges with that. We're going to have to go through an inventory process to do that. But to tier it that way, moving forward, as you fast forward to the 2022-2023 school year, we think there are some unknowns about what the environment will be like, the implementation of the vaccine mandate, and or modified mandate that may come down the road. And so our bridge or any unforeseen challenge, we believe that our private LTE network will position us for not only our independent study program, but also for some planning and future innovation for virtual education at large. And so I guess that might be kind of a wordy way of saying we don't actually have 100% concrete plan yet. We're working on that, and we'll present it to the board in the next couple of months as to what we see as our tiered approach and our operational implementation, and make sure that you're fully briefed on that. So we don't have all the answers to that question yet, but we think that that's actually a really good thing. That we think we're ahead of the curve, and we're going to be able to leverage this asset into the next 10 to 20 years in ways that will grow our district and grow our services.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. Yeah, my thought was there might be a demographic where, you know, everybody's got one of these days, and people may be paying for internet at their homes only to do the Chromebook access and that. And if they didn't have to do that, well, maybe they wouldn't spend the money, they'd spend it on food or something else.
That's right.
It'd be nice to be able to support people who need to work it done. Great. Any other questions or comments from the board? Anybody in the room? Great. Thank you for that, Mr. Morrison. That takes us to Business Administration Strategies Inc. 2022 General Obligation Bond Measure.
Good evening, Vice President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Asvab, community and staff. The district has been using government financial strategies as its financial advisor on issued commercial financing vehicles such as general application bonds, certificates of participation, lease revenue bonds, and qualified school construction bonds since 2012. The district is satisfied with the services received from GFS. The district is considering placing a bond measure on the June 22 ballot and will require financial advisory services. Under the current contract with GFS, the district received a scope of work and estimated cost for these services. The services that would be provided are planning for a general obligation bond measure, post-election pre-bond issuance services, and issuance of bonds after a successful election. Staff believes that it is in the best interest of the district to have the resources associated with a reputable financial advisement firm available throughout the bond measure process. Although their services will be provided on an hourly basis at $280 per hour, it is estimated that the total cost for these services will be $30,500 for planning for a bond, $13,700 for post-election pre-bond issuance, and the issuance of the bonds would be based on a fee schedule at the time of issuance. The funding would come from Fund 01 General Fund. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve an agreement with GFS for financial advisory services associated with the general obligation bond measure as presented.
Move to recommend action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Well, I just want to say thanks for having the workshop we had earlier last month that we could actually talk about this, because this is all complex and you don't do it very often. And, last one we did was 10 years ago. So it's a nice refresh for everybody. So I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Scott. Aye. Dr. Huck. Aye. And I here, so it's unanimous. 11.2, approval to enter into an agreement with Government Financial Services for Civic Engagement Committee process.
So once again, the district is considering putting a bond measure on the June 2022 ballot. One of the preliminary actions in this process is obtaining consensus from representative members of the community regarding the highest needs of the district and the order in which those needs should be addressed. In order to obtain consensus, a community engagement process is utilized. GFS currently serves as our independent financial advisor, and one of the unique services that they provide is planning and implementation of a civic engagement committee process. Under the current contract with the district, GFS has provided a scope of work and estimated cost to the district for conducting this process. Although their services would be provided at an hourly rate of $280 per hour, it is estimated that the total cost for these services would be $44,200, and the funding would come from Fund 01, General Fund. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the district enter into an agreement with GFS for a civic engagement committee process as presented.
Recommend action.
Got a motion a second. Any questions or comments from board members? I think what I'll say is something that struck me as I was kind of looking through this. This is kind of a tough time for public education. It's a tough time for people. And what is a little bit not really concerning for me, but it's an interesting conflagration of things in the communities these days. Makes a lot of people a little bit not thrilled with public education, perhaps. And so the timing on this, because of all the things that are going on around the pandemic, makes it a little bit challenging. But if we just sat back and said, man, it's a tough time, we better not do this, we might never do it. And so what I really appreciate about this approach is there's a robust plan here to engage with our community and really have good conversations about, even though things are hard and even though there's a pandemic and hopefully we'll be coming out of it soon, but we are still trying to do everything we can through every avenue that is, within our ability to go down, to improve our ability to educate kids, and to provide a positive environment for our staff. And so I'm, thrilled that we're taking this step, and looking forward to the positive results.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I just want to comment that I think it is truly our job as the Board of Education to provide the leadership to be forward-looking. And I agree with you, in the times we're in, it is a little bit more difficult than in typical times to also take on that responsible position of being forward-looking. But I think that is absolutely our responsibility, and I believe we must grab it and move forward in a strong way to do that. So I appreciate these positions to do that. It'll give us the ability to do that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board or public? All right, then we will have a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Scott? Dr. Huck?
Aye.
It's an aye for me. So that's unanimous. Move on to item 11.3, approval to enter into an agreement with Cooperative Strategies for facilities planning services. Mr. Clay.
Facilities planning is a critical function performed by school districts to ensure that educational facilities meet the needs of the district and to assist in the allocation of facility resources to achieve the district's goals and objectives. In 2006, the district completed a long-range facilities master plan that is intended to support the district for subsequent 10 years. In 2020, the district partnered with Cooperative Strategies for the development of an updated facilities master plan and elementary educational specifications. The district has been highly satisfied with the services it has received from Cooperative Strategies. The district requested a proposal from Cooperative Strategies for facilities planning services. The scope of these services include facilities master plan update, secondary educational specifications development, and developer fee justification study. The FMP update is a requirement driven by the fact that when the original plan was developed, the VWIG Richmond Elementary School site was not an active campus for the district. Educational specifications for the secondary level were not developed at the first iteration of the plan and will be necessary if there's an expansion of the Murray campus. And finally, if statutory school fees, developer fees, are increased by the State Allocation Board in 2022, it will be necessary to perform a fee justification study to justify an increase in district fees. Financial implications: the fee for the services is as follows. Facility Master Plan Update, $35,963. Secondary Educational Specifications, $23,119. Developer Fee Justification Study, $6,000, for a total of $65,082. Funding for this effort will come from Fund 25 developer fees. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the district enter into an agreement with Cooperative Strategies for facilities planning and services as presented.
Move it from that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions from the board? Roll call vote. Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Scott? Aye. Dr. Huck?
Aye.
Aye for me. 11.4, approval of contract with Siemens Industries Advantage Services for ongoing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning maintenance service. Mr. Coit, again.
The Sierra Sands Unified School District has contracted with Siemens Industries for HVAC maintenance services for 15 years. The district has been well satisfied with this service. Under current considerations, the current contract is expiring. The district wishes to continue to receive this service. The proposed duration of the contract is 5 years. Financial implications: the costs of the contract are as follows. Year one, $71,830. Year 2, $73,650. Year 3, $75,850. Year 4, $78,200. Year 5, $80,475. Total for the 5-year contract, $380,005. Funding for this will come from the maintenance and operations budget. It is a recommendation that the board approve the contract with Siemens Industries Advantage Services for HVAC maintenance for 5 years as presented.
Recommend action.
Second. We've got a motion and a second. Any questions?
I just have a couple. So are we noticing any difference in the wear and tear on the HVAC since we put the new Super Duty HEPA filters in them?
I've not heard of any. I don't think there's been any increase in failures.
I think we loaded them up with it. Dude.
I think we have to change them a little more frequently, change the filters.
And my other question is, since we're going to purchase or potentially purchase 110 new units, is the maintenance cost going to be the same on those new units as on the old units?
It should be lower for a few years.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So is this billable by the hour, or is this billable just by a basic flat rate for the year?
This is a flat rate. It's support. It's also some upgrades when there's an upgrade for any of the software that's included in it. My time working with them is we kept the system current, with all the new upgrades, and sometimes there's an expense for equipment. There's also some warranty coverage in there and lower pricing. But another thing I might mention that if we improve the other 109 units that we're going to change out for the elementary schools, we'll actually be upgrading some of the building automation systems going to BACnet at that time. So we have continued over my years involved with it anyway to always update that system and try to keep it functioning well.
Thank you.
My only question has to do with my foggy memory, but we had some issues with Siemens a few years back, if I recall.
8 years ago.
My assumption is that that's sort of a different piece of Siemens than this one, or I mean, you can't say that somebody screwed up 10 years ago and then they're never okay again. But,
right.
We had issues with hardware. I don't know that we had issues with service necessarily. So, is this kind of, you said we've done this for 15 years, so it sort of struck me as odd that call maintaining that relationship with them.
Well, it was wrong.
We had
for a while. I mean, we had the issues were with installation,
right,
and not going to DSA for changing units out and for work that was done. And so, that's all either been replaced or pulled out, and we had a whole history with that, with litigation and all that. But even during that time, I was working directly with the service side of Siemens, and there was never an issue with them. And we could openly talk about that and say, hey, we know this is going on, but we still got our jobs to do, and they were very professional about it. And even though, people change over the time, I still see the same type of attitude. And then I might add also going back that should we ever get to a point where we don't have that relationship, we can actually use other vendors if we have a BACnet system, if we don't have a proprietary P1 system like we're running right now. So there's also an advantage to continuing to upgrade our systems.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right. Call for a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Scott? Aye. Dr. Howard?
Aye.
Aye for me. It's unanimous. We will temporarily adjourn the regular school board meeting and call to order the meeting of the Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors. Item number 1 is adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes.
No changes. Item 2, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of September 16, 2021. Any changes to those? Nobody. Those will stand. We will then adjourn the Board of Directors meeting of the Intern Schools Financing Authority and move to item 13, the consent calendar.
And the special also.
So especially special concurrent items 4114242.
In addition to all of item 13 on the regular agenda. Sounds good to me.
Second.
Great. Motion and second. We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Scott. Dr. Hubbs.
Aye.
Aye from me. Let's see. Item 14. Future agenda. Do we want to entertain any future agenda items based on anything that happens tonight or potentially? I see none. That will take us to item 15, adjournment. Next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be November 18th, 2021. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully we can do this in the big room next time.
Letters.